Welcome to Real Coaching Radio, the podcast for coaches by coaches. We are here to teach you how to get the most out of your clients and yourself. This is where beauty meets the beast, brains meet brawn, and science meets, well, bro science. Welcome to Real Coaching Radio. Situations is a topic that I have a conversation with every single one of my clients, and that's why me and Mark sat down to speak about this today. It was just, this is one of the most difficult things when it comes to achieving some kind of fitness goal is the weekends. It's going away for the weekend, it's going out for drinks, it's birthday parties, and how to manage those social situations. And I think a lot of that comes down to managing expectations. So that is what we go through today. Again, if you're looking to become a level 3 personal trainer, head to myptecourse.com. We're back to doing live days. If you're looking for programming, head to Origin Series or Hack the Body, Hack the Mind. Cheers, gang. Enjoy the episode. So, I guess first thing, before we actually go into today's topic, worst workout you've ever done hungover?
Oh, fucking hell.
I've played rugby hungover a few times.
I don't know, I haven't trained hungover in such a long time. I actually can't remember. I don't really know. I don't really have one.
Do you not?
Nah, because I can't really remember. I've been to work hungover.
Oh, I've been to work hungover.
But I haven't really
Alright, okay. When was the least amount of sleep from a night out to work?
Oh. So this was when I was working at pretty much the first gym I ever worked at. And I went through a period, because I was young. It's like, go out Friday night, go out Saturday night, go out Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. And Thursday night, there was this one bar where it was £1 for either vodka and Red Bull or a Jaeger bomb. And I went there with one of my mates, and there's a couple of us, but specifically me and this lad, I went to the bar. I spent 20 quid on Jaeger bomb, so I got 20.
wait, not at one go. Surely not at one go.
Yeah, just bought 20.
Shut up.
But at the same time, he bought 20 vodka Red Bulls. So we had 40 drinks in front of us.
What day was this?
It was a Thursday night.
Oh, mate, I can't do it.
And there was one or two people out, but then obviously other people would come to the table because there was 40 drinks at the table.
No, I can't.
So we drank. I don't know how many we drank of them, but anyway, I drank enough to go home hammered. I reckon I got home at maybe 3:30. Had to be in the gym. Gym was open at 6 a.m.
All right, no, that's bad.
So I reckon literally head down for 45 minutes, up, shower, changed to the gym, and I remember being at the gym. I opened the gym for 6, then just sat in the office of the gym, and then the manager came in maybe just after 8, came into the office and was like, "I'll come back in a few hours." He was sound, he just let me do it. So yeah, I reckon I did that maybe, don't know, probably 2-3 weeks in a row. I reckon I did that.
I think my worst. So the worst one I've ever had was when I had to teach gymnastics and weightlifting on a Sunday morning here. And I'm not very good with, that's not exactly my kettle of fish anyway. Yeah, and I remember turning up and I was so lucky with the people we had because they were all very good, or at least been through 10 sessions already. So then I felt, I got here, probably similar thing, 4 a.m, but it gym was open at 8:30?
Yeah, it must have been back then, I reckon.
8 o'clock. So got in for them, went through to both classes, felt sound. I threw up so much afterwards. And as soon as the classes ended, it just hit me.
Yeah.
It was it was literally Monster Energy, protein shake and water was just the three things I was just rotating just to make myself feel better.
Yeah.
So, social situations and learning how to manage them in the weekends. This is a topic that I think I've had conversations with clients. I reckon every single one of my clients.
Yeah, I think this is one of those topics that inevitably comes up all of the time.
Yeah.
I think, especially like, I think especially being in a gym that's in a city.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing of like, because you get Friday nights for like people who work within the city.
Yep.
Are like such a big social thing, and people who work in offices, they're almost. You either get people who work on site, so it's like work gear beers on a Friday night, like or Friday afternoon, like 2:00, and then people who work in office, it's like straight from the office to the pub.
Yep. Yeah, and I think it comes up probably with every client at some point.
Yeah, for me, I've had this conversation about managing this because I think for most people, it can be the real thing that butt heads when it comes to them achieving their goals, because Monday through to Friday, or at least Monday through to Thursday, most people are like really spot on with their food. Especially like if most people don't drink within the week.
Yeah, absolutely. But then you can very easily, across a Friday night, a Saturday and a Saturday night, and then probably into a Sunday, ruin everything you've just done.
So I guess we would kind of want to come at this from like two different points of view. We want to speak to two different people here, and I'm going to start with my empathetic side and speak to the people who really do start to overthink this when it comes to like, well, what do I like if I'm going out the weekend, and get really like just kind of anxious, or it's not even just anxious, but like they fear going out for the weekend because they're like, well, it's going to ruin all of my progress. Mm-hmm. And like two things that I kind of want to say on that is like, it might not and it might, because depending on how often you go out, how much you drink and eat over these weekends, or how much when you go to these social situations you like overindulge, compared to what you do the majority of the time, will start to like, it's almost like a balancing act. Like one's going to kind of either be the thing that overtakes the other. So if you're good 3 weeks out of 4, then it's not going to have as much of an impact as you would be if you were going out every single weekend, multiple times a weekend. And that's kind of the conversation that, like, cheers. That's the conversation I kind of have with clients mostly, is like, I guess it starts off with, well, what's your expectations, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I also think, like, based on what you've just said, like, if you're only going out, you know, let's say one weekend over a month, you've got to take, much like we do with everything else when it comes to certainly like nutrition and fat loss and those kind of things, if we're looking at tracking it, then you've got to look at the averages. Whereas like it's very easy to get lost in kind of that like 48-hour window, whereas like 48 hours out of how many hours in a month, like realistically, is a very small window. It's very easy to get lost within that 48 hours, and like you see the scales change, what you monitor, how you feel, whatever, and then it's easy to think you've ruined all of that progress. Whereas if you step back and take a look at the slightly bigger picture, the reality is like you probably haven't.
Yeah, because I think like it does feel, I think especially when you first get into the gym and you're not really sure kind of what goes into you getting towards your goals. Because like when people first start, like people understand it's a lifestyle change, but they think it's a complete lifestyle switch.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. Like we talk about it being a lifestyle change all the time, and I think so many people are very quick to go from, you know, do a complete 180 on their lifestyle to thinking, and I think, you know, whether that's because if people inquire for personal training and talk to personal trainers, they think that personal trainers live a lifestyle of just living on chicken and broccoli, spend all day in the gym, like only ever drink water. So whether they're trying to please the personal trainer in terms of like giving them information that they think they want, rather than actually just being honest with the coach.
Yeah.
And just thinking like, you know, the amount of conversations I've had with people in a consultation where they're just like, on this very all or nothing person. It's kind of like, well, I don't really want an all or nothing person, or I don't really want you to be an all or nothing person, because that's then going to mean you're going to go from one extreme to the other. One extreme being like your diet is like mega clean, you're religious with your training, to then what happens?
Yeah.
Like, we fall completely off the bandwagon. Whereas, rather than being 100% in 4 months of the year, why don't you just be like 75 to 80% in 12 months of the year?
Yeah, because I think like as well, depending on where they're getting their information from, because like when people think gym, they think bodybuilders. Like general public go gym, they go bodybuilders.
Yep.
And then when they look at bodybuilders, they go, well, bodybuilders, all they do is train and do nothing else with their life.
Yeah.
So it's almost like that's what people think they have to emulate, and that's probably what puts a lot of people off coming to the gym to start with, is because they think they have to just, well, like, I've got to change my whole life. And it's kind of, the way I like to approach clients with it is like, you don't have to like change your lifestyle to become a gym junkie. Like, we've just got to find a way to put the gym into your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And like, that's almost where this conversation needs to go with like any clients, is like, you have your lifestyle and your goals. So you have your goals and your lifestyle, and at some point they butt heads.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's more important when it comes to you achieving your goals, and like kind of what things have you got to actually take into consideration? Because if you are like 100% in all of the time, you're probably not 100%. You're probably worse off.
Yeah.
Because that 100% doesn't last all the time, and as soon as you stop, you go completely off the wagon.
Will you just become a yo-yo dieter, yo-yo exerciser?
Is it? Because I would always look to implement habits with people,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what their goals are. Trying to implement habits in the sense of like, let's take your lifestyle into consideration to make sure that when you do train, when you are trying to like change what you're eating, you still get the things you need. And I think like at the very start of the conversation, clients need a lot of their original life.
Yeah.
And people need a lot of their original life, and you can't just go and change everything. Whereas like towards like, as we get throughout this journey, and people start to go, okay, I don't actually need to do that thing I thought I needed to do at the start. I can actually now, like, I don't have to have a beer with every meal, or I don't have to go out Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or I don't have to have that bottle of wine every Sunday. Kind of, but people make that decision when they're ready for it. And like, I really struggle with people who go all in and then do two things. When they come off completely, they either beat themselves up for it because they're like, well, that's it, like my progress is ruined, or they just kind of don't see the pattern of them going off, then on, then off, then on. And it's like being able to show that to people and be like, that's not the best way.
Yeah. But it's kind of like walking that tightrope of, yes, there has to be some level of restriction because that's really the only way you're going to be making changes. But then also there needs to be an emphasis of the things that you enjoy doing. Otherwise, it just comes back to like the basic principles, doesn't it? Like, because if you don't do those things that you don't enjoy doing, if you don't do those things, you are going to stop adhering.
Yeah.
And then if you don't adhere, you're going to stop being consistent. If you stop being consistent, you're going to stop getting results.
Yeah. So what would you say, like, managing weekends, how does an individual, because we all have different lives, but how should we start to like look at training and like get into our goals? How do we manage and balance that with our social lives and our weekends?
I think the first thing that people need to address is just like, which you linked to earlier, I think the first thing people need to address is just sort of, let's set some expectations. Whether that, so there's kind of, there might be this goal of like, let's say there's this goal of like getting the best shape of their life. Like, what does that look like? But then there's this thing of, I actually enjoy going out most weekends with my friends and or family. And both are very kind of, they're good. Having a goal of like getting in the best shape of your life is a great goal. Having these social situations where you spend time with your friends and family is also a great facet in terms of like your overall well-being and health, like having those relationships with friends and family. But it's probably understanding that, what does the best shape of your life look like? Because if the best shape of your life looks like, and if we go to some sort of extreme, like being a bodybuilder or some sort of physique model type look, you're not going to get that by going out every weekend.
Yeah.
Because it's just, that's not going to happen. It's unrealistic. The lifestyle needs to be more restricted than that. So it's trying to weigh up and actually set some expectations of, well, you can do this on a weekend. Yes, we'll probably still put some restrictions in place, but you can do this on a weekend, but realistically, you're not going to achieve this.
Yeah, that's managing expectations becomes like a really difficult thing when people aren't too sure with what they completely want. So like if most people, and I'm guilty for this more than anyone, is like I set myself a goal without thinking of what it's going to take to achieve that goal.
Yeah.
And it's like you may get 3 to like sometimes even shorter than that. I was going to say like 3 months, but like you can get 3 to 4 weeks in and just be like, I can't sustain this. And I think that's the thing as well, is like, don't think this is something you have to get right from the very start when it comes to like kind of aiming towards achieving whatever goal it is in fitness, especially if you're starting out, like if you're very new to training. Like I've been training 6 to 8 years and I still have times where I have a goal that I'm heading for and I still come off road or go off the track a little bit and I have to bring myself back. And I think when it comes to like deciding which is more important, your goals or your lifestyle, you just have to see what brings you the most happiness and what's going to give you like the satisfaction long term. Because like be careful with happiness in the sense of happiness is fleeting and it comes and goes really quickly. Like someone could like pass me a chocolate bar and I'll be pretty happy right now. Someone could give me like a present and I'll be happy right now. I could go and spend a load of money and I'd be happy right now. But like especially like when it comes to drinking, the momentary satisfaction of that is amazing. Like I feel the dopamine hit's great, but then later on, the next day when I'm hungover and I'm like trying to detox from alcohol and I've got these withdrawal symptoms, doesn't feel that great.
Yeah.
So it's like then when you like multiply that to I had this goal and now I don't achieve it because of all of those things that I was kind of hedonistic in the moment of trying to just get the thing I think I wanted, then it's like I actually feel worse and I don't have the trust in myself anymore. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like when it comes to setting these goals or having these realistic expectations, you need to start with, have you ever gone for anything like this before? Say it is a fat loss goal or it is some sort of like training goal that normally body image is where we're going. Then it's like, if I've never done that before, I've got to be more like open to just learning the process and understanding that I'm going to fall off. I've got to incorporate these like good things that I enjoy outside of training and outside of the gym to keep me motivated to keep going to the gym. Because if you start getting to a point where every single weekend you can't do something with your friends and family because you're like, I've got this goal, is that going to make you as happy as the other one? And do you know what I mean? It's kind of, it's always that way up option of what's going to make me most satisfied in the long term.
Yeah, so I think like when it comes to setting expectations and setting goals, that's probably one of the first places people need to begin in terms of, you know, what are the important things within my life? What are the almost the non-negotiables within my life? And whether that be like, you know, me doing this thing on a Saturday night with my friends is a non-negotiable, and it's setting those non-negotiables. And even if some of those non-negotiables are counterproductive to the goal that you're like originally come to try and achieve, it's probably like having it within you to be like, well, yeah, this is a non-negotiable. So I need to understand that if this is a non-negotiable, this goal that I've now tried to achieve is kind of like slightly unrealistic. Yeah. It doesn't mean that we can't make progress. It just means that like, yeah, this isn't going to be the thing. But then also it's kind of like, if we went down the route of body image, I think if people took body, it's funny, isn't it? Because like, if you take body image, and generally, I don't know, if you were to Google that, or if you were to look in magazines, or you were to look on the internet, or you know, social media or anything, you probably see extremes of body image. People ready to be on stage, people ready for photo shoots, whatever it might be. But I think if you went and spoke to those people at that moment in time, they probably weren't very happy. They're probably tired. They're probably like food deprived. they're probably like energy deprived, potentially sleep deprived, depending on how much their training is like and their schedule and that kind of stuff. So if you ask them if they were happy, they're probably quite miserable at that given point. So I think we can move people along to improve their body image, to make them happy. But ultimately, like, I think chasing this extreme body image might give you like some good satisfaction, like you say, like right there and then. But most of the people that where you see extreme body images, like, they don't sustain that, and they don't walk around like that 24/7 anyway. So it's understanding what the expectation is of what you're going to be able to achieve, and also what you're going to be able to sustain, and how you're going to feel when you do sustain some of that sort of stuff.
I kind of like to look at these type of things as almost, I guess, seasons, in the sense of like, I like to get people to look at it in a way of going, right, I want you to think about your life over the next 3 months. What's the most important thing to you?
Mm-hmm.
Over the next week, the next month, like on a long-term basis, I can keep reviewing it of what do I actually want to focus on. Because sometimes when it comes to someone saying to me, I want to get into shape for this holiday, I have like 4 or 5 different columns, in the sense of when I'm setting them goals of like, I want to kind of know what training I'm going to get them to do. I want to know what we're doing with their nutrition. I want to know what we're doing with like their movement and their steps. But I also need to know what their social life's like. Yeah. Because if I've got 20 weeks to get someone towards their goal, then it's like, okay, well, in these 20 weeks, you've got 4 birthday parties, you've got 2 weekends away, and you still need to lose X amount of weight. So for me, it's like, okay, between these 2 weeks, so between weeks 1 and 3, you haven't got any social stuff. So that's where we focus on getting towards your goals a little bit more.
Yeah.
We dial things in a little bit. We're more strict with our diet. Yeah. And then when it comes to these weekends where you're going away, you can enjoy yourself, but then it comes to managing that. And like, how would you suggest people manage those social situations in the weekends when they actually come around?
So I think we just need to put in some like real basic principles and almost rules and guidelines for them to follow. So for me, like, some real simple ones would be ensuring that they have protein at every meal, because again, it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to help maintain some muscle mass. It's going to hopefully keep them a little bit more satiated, because protein is a higher satiating food. And also, like, in their mindset, it might just keep them on top of, well, this is still what my goal is. Do you know what I mean? I think a hydration would be another big one as well. So ensure that they're drinking water, whether that be like ensure that you drink water every meal, or if you go out in an evening, ensure that, like, I don't know, depending on how far and how restrictive we need to be with people, it could be like, right, you're going to alternate your alcoholic drinks with alcoholic drink, water, or so you're at least maintaining some level of hydration. And then I would say, like, just trying, again, like, vegetables within each meal. Potentially try and limit carbohydrate intake over those weekends away. And the only reason I say that is not because carbohydrates are bad, and I think carbohydrates are bad. It's because I think carbohydrates are the nutrient that you're more likely to overeat. So if we try and restrict some of those, then you're less likely to overeat.
Yeah, because I think that's the thing of trying to get people to understand you can still go and enjoy your weekend. Mm-hmm. You just need to have a plan.
Yeah.
And like, I'm very similar with that. Like, I always say, especially weekends away, at breakfast, and if you can at every meal, think about the protein source first.
Yep.
And we work on those things of just getting them to think about, like, oh, actually, yeah, it's still that reminder that I've got this goal.
And I think that's a really good place to start with the general public, because, and you know, you see this as well. Like, for most people, when I look at analysing their diets, the majority of people, their protein intake is far too low for the goal that they're trying to achieve. Yeah. So for most of the time, increasing protein intake is one of the first things we try and do. So again, like you say, it's that constant reminder of, oh, well, actually, I do have this goal.
Yeah. And that's the thing as well. Like, if you go protein intake for breakfast as well, kind of like, especially if they're like away, even on holidays, but like even if they're away to a point where they've like all you can eat breakfast,
yep.
It's like, get your protein first.
Yep.
Eat, have that. if you're still hungry and you can eat something else, then by all means go have a pancake or go have a croissant. Go because I think it's a case of going, because you could just turn around I could just turn around right now and just go, mate, just enjoy yourself. And some people need to do that because some people really focus too much on training, on nutrition all the time, and they miss out on parts of their life, especially when their goal is not to be a physique athlete. So it's like, if that isn't your goal, what is your goal? And make sure that your weekends kind of match that, in the sense of you're going away to enjoy time with your family. If you've been eating out of Tupperware containers for the past 6 months, pretty sure your family are going to appreciate you just having some time to eat with them. And it's like, I know a lot of places now do calories on the menu and stuff like that. Would you even recommend people to take that into consideration?
Yeah, I would, because I think, again, it's still keeping them on track of their goal. Like, you don't need to go out and just go wild. Like, there still needs to be this element of control. Otherwise, you won't achieve. The reality is you won't achieve your goals, especially if you're going out fairly regularly. Like, you will undo all of the hard work that you do Monday to Friday. So, yeah, I would encourage people to either, and whether this, comes from help with the coach or you're able to figure it out by yourself, but I would encourage people to look ahead on the menu. And one of the biggest things I get people to try and do is look ahead, and I get them to decide what they're going to have before they even go away. So let's say they're going away on a Friday and a Saturday night, and they know which restaurants they're going to be eating in. Unlike a Wednesday, I'll be like, right, have a look at both menus, decide what you're going to have now. Yeah. Because if you wait until the moment, it's probably too late, and you're going to make a decision that you might end up regretting the next day.
Yeah, I really like that, because it's like the way you kind of, it's so funny, because I think people need to, I think if you're working with someone, or this is you listening to this and you're thinking of your own goals, like, you need to really have the conversation of how important that is for you. Not only just what you're expecting, but how important it is for you. Because, like, if it's a client who it is really important to, that advice is exactly what you should be given. Because it's just the case of, like, look, your goal is more important than, like, choosing something, because you're still going to be eating out, you're still going to be enjoying the food.
You're still at the table, you're still with your friends, you're still with your family. Like, the burger and chips isn't going to, over the salmon and potatoes, isn't going to be the highlight of the night. No, I'm hoping.
Yeah,
like,
but
it's the time with the people.
And that's the thing that, like, you kind of got to go into this with, is like, you enjoy the time with the people and make sure that that's the priority within that. Because if you're there stressing about what to eat, and, like, you may even get there, and this is a hard bit of when you're chasing your goals, especially with friends and family around, because your friends and family just want you to be happy. And if you're sat there trying to pick something from the menu, but you're worrying about your goals, they'll see you're worrying, you may even mention it, and they'll be like, oh, it'll be fine for tonight, like, don't worry about it. But if that's really important for you, making that decision before you go stops you from, when you get in there, to actually, like, oh, well, now I've got this panic moment. You already know what you're eating. It doesn't change anything with the night, because, like, they don't necessarily know.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But on the flip side of that, I also think, when you say that they don't necessarily know, I also think that if it's a goal that is really important to you, so let's say, I don't know, let's say you're getting married in whatever, you're getting married in 2 to 3 months, and you've just, like, started this fitness journey, or you're a few weeks into it, and so this means something to you. You're gonna spend your rest of your life with this person. You're gonna have some photos that are gonna last the rest of your life, and you want to be able to look back at them and go, I was really happy, and part of that reason I was really happy is because I felt good in my dress, or I felt good in the suit, whatever it might be. And, like, those things are going to make you happy. I think if you're going, let's say you're going away for a weekend with, like, real close friends and family, I think if they are really close friends and, obviously family, you can have the conversation of being like, look, I'm also working on this. Yeah. Like, this is my goal. Like, yeah, I'm going to come away and I'm going to have a good time, but, like, I want you to try and help me by, like, if I'm going to eat this at the restaurant, like, don't try and offer me, like, this burger and go, oh, I don't know where it won't hurt, because, like, it will hurt. Yeah. And so why don't you help me rather than being...
He wouldn't want to, because it's the highlight for themselves.
Yeah.
It's the mirror up to themselves that they're not doing stuff a lot of the time. And like, and I mean that in like the very nicest way possible. Like a lot of people have wanted to change the way they look or start getting into training, and they find it too difficult. They fall at the first couple of hurdles. And a lot of that just comes down to like, they may not want it that much, because a lot of people are genuinely happy with the way they look. Like I've had a client come to me before who like spoke about weight loss all the time, but like we kind of got 3-4 months into it and it's like nothing was really happening. Like there was nothing she really wanted to change, and she was like, you know what, I'm just happy with the way I am. It's like, great.
Yeah.
But like those people who may have started to go down this journey but never followed through with it, who are unhappy with the way they look but just still haven't committed to changing, those are going to be most likely people that will want to pull you to them, so it makes them feel better that like, oh, actually this person can't do it, I'm not doing it, like we're kind of all shit together. And it's like, but I think especially when it's important, like your friends and family, even though they can be the worst sometimes, should help you out the most.
Absolutely. You know, and don't get me wrong, like everybody will probably have like a little bit of banter around it, but I think if it actually really, really means something and is really important to you, and I think if you express that to your friends or family, if they're good enough friends and like you've got a good enough relationship with your family, I would like to think that they're going to be a bit more supportive as opposed to the other way.
Yeah,
and just give you a load of shit for it.
And I suppose if you're just using those rules that you've given of like protein, making sure you're like drinking water and like trying to get enough veg in like over your meals when you're away for your weekend, then like, or you're out for a meal, really that doesn't change much about the weekend at all. It just gives you something to think about when it comes to these meal timings. That's like, oh, actually, like I've still got this goal and I've got these easy to follow rules. Like, I've just got to make sure I do these 3 things.
I think if you went with the nutrition, it was like, you know, make sure you got protein, make sure you got vegetables, and then choose your carb source.
Yeah.
Like fill the plate with carbs then, because then you get this visual representation, like physically put the protein on the plate, physically put the vegetables on the plate, because then you have this portion and this place in the plate that is empty, and you can fill that with carbohydrates rather than like starting with the pasta and then finding room for the protein and veg if you're lucky. If you go the other way around, you're more like, because then you're guaranteeing that you've got the protein in, you've got the veg in, and you're more than likely going to limit your carbohydrate source if you do that. So it's going to prevent you from overeating. And then if you make sure that you stay hydrated, again, that's going to have some real good benefits to one, probably making, you know, a lot of the time people will eat because they're a little bit bored. Whereas like, so if you maintain your hydration level, you might stop some of those bad habits coming into play. And then I also think, again, going along that lines of like, if you are snacking is probably going to be a big thing over those weekends as well. So I would try and limit snacks as much as you possibly can. But if you are going to snack, again, I'd probably try and be like fairly self-conscious and self-aware to ask yourself the question of like, am I actually hungry or am I just a bit bored?
Yeah. I when it comes to weekends away, I think like just being aware of everything would be the biggest thing. Like using those three rules of just like the protein, veg and stuff like that, kind of being aware of what you're doing when it comes to chasing goals is the biggest thing, because some people will just bury their heads because they don't want to think about it. Some people like will just not know and are not aware, and this gives you some ideas to like be aware of what you're doing on a weekend. Now when it comes to hydration levels, when it comes to just like nights out, like I kind of want to let you know how much of an impact it can have on your diet and on the effects over like a weekend. How many calories are in like a Domino's pizza? Say like
a mate, it depends
pizza.
On the pizza, but like
have a look.
Thousands.
Yeah. So like I've had a client before, right, who was unbelievable with his diet, and I mean like throughout the week. When he started off, it was a bit rocky, but then we got to the point where he's like, right, he's eating chicken, rice and broccoli for his lunch. His breakfast is like porridge. His evening meal would be like either chicken and salmon and just some veg. And it was like amazing, mate, like doing really well. But was having like no other snacks, was just drinking water. And I was like, this guy should be losing a lot of weight. But the problem was he would go out like Friday, Saturday and have a few beers Sunday, right? And if you have, so like 1 pint of lager is around 200 calories, can be about towards 250 depending on the lager, but it's like 200 calories per beer. So say you have 10 beers like in a night, mate, you're looking at like 2,000 calories. Say you have like 15 beers over a weekend, that's 3,000 calories, and that's your deficit out of the window. And that's the problem that most people like think of, like, or don't think about, is that the beer has calories, the alcohol has calories, like the mixer you're putting with your rum, so the Coke you're putting with your rum has calories. Even alcohol itself has calories. So that's all going to start to tot up and add up. But then when it comes to you being drunk, and then either the next day or on the same night out, going and getting a Domino's pizza, how many more calories are we adding?
So here, like roughly, obviously depending on the pizza, you're probably somewhere between 200 to 300 calories per slice.
200 to 300 calories per slice.
Per slice.
How many slices does like 8 to 12?
So large pizzas must have like, I reckon like 12 slices. Yeah.
Yeah, 12 slices.
Yeah.
So say 200.
Yeah.
So that's 2,400 calories from a pizza.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So if that's because when I'm hungover, all I want to do is eat, and that comes a lot from the fact that you're dehydrated.
Yep.
So I would make sure that you are keeping yourself hydrated either in that day or on the nighttime. Do you know something I do? And this is probably not the best thing, but this is something that I've learned to do because of how hungry I get on a night out and how hungry I get the next day. Obviously, I drink water like as much as I can through the night. I probably don't go 1 for 1. I probably go 1 for 4, maybe. And like what I do now is I buy something that I can eat when I get home.
Yeah.
Rather than buying like cheesy chips and gravy on the way home,
on the way
like
home.
or a pizza on the way home.
Yeah.
Like I go home and I've got food at home I can have, and like even if that's like chicken goujons or whatever it is, even something that you would buy on a night out, is stopping you from purchasing that and something else and something else.
That's the thing, because like you'll go more, you'll do more.
And I kind of like, and I using these little tricks and these little things to just like be aware of what's going on is the biggest thing, because no point are we sat here going, stop going out, stop enjoying yourself. The whole point of this is for you to understand, like, depending on my goals, depending on what I want to achieve, these are all the things that are going to go into me gaining weight on a weekend. It's me over-consuming on food because menus probably are off with their calories by 10 to 20%. About right?
Yeah, I think they get a leeway. Yeah.
So like, say it's 10%, so they're off with their calories around 10%, and like the drinks that you're having, you're not like taken into account when it comes to the calories within the alcohol and within the mixers that go into it. So like, the drink's gonna give you calories. The hungover next day when you're eating everything under the sun is going to give you calories. The food that you're eating from the restaurant is going to give you calories. And it's like, none of these things are bad as long as they're planned for. I think that's the one thing that I like people to think about, and that's why I go for like over this course of this diet when your social situations, because we can start to give them a plan of like, this is when you're dialing it in. This is when you can relax. This is when you dial it in. This is when you relax. And we still give rules of like protein, veg, water, but we give them the freedom to not feel like my life is now just gym.
Yeah, but if you set those rules in place before those social situations happen, you're putting yourself in a better situation to make better decisions during those social situations. Like if you wait until you're at those social situations, you're unprepared. You're probably likely going to be swayed one way or another because of the people that are around you and the environment that you're in. And you're just not, you're not thinking logically about these decisions that you can make. Like you start making emotional decisions. You start making decisions when you're hungry. You start making decisions when other people are drinking more. Like, and you just get sucked into that whole cycle of it. Like,
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I suppose the question that most people will be asking is, can you actually get in shape and still go out and enjoy yourselves?
I mean, you can definitely make progress, and you can probably get into relatively good shape if I think if you're being good Monday to Thursday, and then Friday night and Saturday night you're going out and they're big nights, so like drinking loads and then like takeaway or some sort of food on the way home, the answer's probably no.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
But I think like if you're working hard Monday to Friday, maybe doing something on a Saturday, that's not every weekend. And when it is, there are still, I say, rules in place, but you are being aware of what your other goals are, then absolutely you can make progress.
And I think that's the big thing is like, you can still go out and socialize without drinking, without like going crazy. Because to me, the drinks the alcohol is the biggest thing which throws people off. Either because it makes them hungry and makes them, especially if they've been on a diet.
Yeah.
If you're on a diet, you're going to be hungry anyway. You're going to be restricted. So then when it comes to like your inhibitions going out the window because you've had like a few drinks, all you're going to want to do is indulge, because you've been so food focused. Probably if you're like if you're new to dieting anyway, you'll be really aware that you're restricted. I think like, I don't know if you get this, but like when I reduce some calories now, I don't think about being on a diet. I don't really think of like, oh, I'm like, I can't have this, I can't have that. You kind of naturally do it. And I'm not so food focused throughout the week because like I don't set the rules of like, you can't have that, you can't have this. So when you're first new to it, you may have these food focuses, which just mean that on a weekend, as soon as you have some drinks, you're kind of just going to eat everything under the sun.
It's all just going to go out the window, isn't it?
And like, just be aware of that, because most people, most of the time, can achieve what they want to achieve by going out once or twice a month, but not going out every weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
No way. You're just not. No, you can't undo that in the Monday to Thursday that's coming up.
Yeah, and like for any of you who are going, but my mate goes out Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and like he trains and like he's got a six pack. You don't know how much that guy's moving. You don't know what his food consumption is throughout the week. You don't know what like his metabolism's like, what his genetics are like, and he's not you. You don't know where he started from or where he currently is. If you're currently overweight and you've not really trained before and you've not really gone on a diet before, you're not starting from the same place as someone who is currently in a. For me, for example, my body composition is relatively okay most of the year round, and that's because like whenever I have a few weekends where I'm out on the bounce weekend after weekend, it's going to start to add more calories and it's going to start to make a difference in like the way I look. But because I'm starting from this current place, it's not blowing my body composition completely out the window.
It's easier to maintain a body composition than it is to change to get a different one.
Yeah, so if it's easier to maintain your body composition and the hardest thing is actually getting to that place, then maybe if your goal is to get to that place, that would be when like a bit more restriction would come into place, and you may not go out that much on the weekends because that's the more important goal for the time being. Yeah. And understanding that it doesn't have to be that way for the rest of your life, because when it comes back to like you just maintaining, well, you can just go out and enjoy yourself a little bit more with the understanding that you're aware that you still have these goals in place.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
No, I don't think so. I think that's like the main big rocks of it, really.
You want a beer?
I get pizza.
Yeah, pizza. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else. No, not that I can think of.
No, I'm good.
Amazing. Well, enjoy your weekend, guys, whatever you're doing, and we will see you on the next one. Thank you so much for listening to that episode. Hopefully we've given you some kind of key takeaways and what to focus on when it comes to managing the weekends, managing alcohol, managing birthdays, social situations, and managing your expectations with your goals when it comes to those things. When it comes to the weekends, I've come from the approach of you need to have an understanding and a realistic expectation of what you want to achieve and what it's going to take to get to that goal. I think also along the mental health side of it, if socializing with your friends, and it should be something you enjoy, then make sure that still becomes a part of your life and just factor it into the diet or the way of eating and getting towards your goal that works. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you can give us 5 stars on iTunes, that would be great. If you can, take a screenshot, share it on your stories, tag Real Coaching Radio, tag Hack the Body, Hack the Mind, tag Mark Origin Series in this. We really, really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you on the next one.